purpose of this tonight, I know Alicia's in here. Alicia, give me a thumbs up if you can see my slide. I just want to make sure I've got it going the right direction here.
Can you see me?
No, but I can hear you. Okay,
Yes.
great. So you can see it.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so the whole purpose of tonight, after we had our conference in July, it seems like it's been a month ago, but it's really only been a little over a week ago. There were a lot of instructors that were concerned and said they were having a difficult time teaching the content for TDLR laws and regulations that students were receiving on the written test. So I'm going to show you a few things that I found as I was kind of digging into the data, because I think it's really important when we're looking at test results for students. I know you hear this from your administrators at your campuses all the time about data-driven decisions, and it isn't always super important, but in this case, it really kind of is important, because I think you're going to be surprised at what we found looking at this. And then we're just going to talk about some ways that maybe we can collaborate moving forward. We've got a lot of new teachers that are going to need some assistance, and we want to make sure that they have all of the support and all of the help that they need. So let's just kind of dig in, and then I look forward to getting some feedback from you guys about what's working for you and what's not working for you. So, first of all, kind of the problem is that a lot of students are struggling with the written exam. Instructors feel like they are struggling with the section that pertains to the licensing and regulation laws and rules about cosmetology, barbering, and specialty services. So the theory of change, and y'all know I've always felt this was so important. If we collaborate to share best practices and strategies, then we will enable our students to increase scores on this portion of the written exam. So this is what I found really interesting. So goes to show why data is important, because Alicia will tell you, anyone that was at the conference will tell you, this was one of the number one things that teachers were wanting to talk about and felt like this is where their students were really struggling in the written exam. But when I pulled data today for the last 12 months, what you're seeing here are the Barber results. So on all attempts on the written exam, statewide average, so this is just English only, the overall pass rate is 37%. Now, I always want to look at all of the attempts, because when I really take that data and I really sort it out, it shows me who's testing the first time and passing. It'll show me how many students are retesting multiple times. And there's also a large number of students that test multiple times that never make it past the written test. So I think it's important for us to look at all of those numbers. So although on all attempts, the pass rate on the Barber exam is only 37%, you see that the students are passing, 61% are passing this licensing and regulation section, and they're getting 67% of the questions on infection control. When you look at cosmetology, all attempts on the written exam, state average in English only, 55% is our success rate over the last 12 months, but we're not failing licensing and regulation or infection control. Our students are passing those two sections. Now, they're just barely passing, but they are passing those two sections. So I think it's probably, I don't know, perception is reality. So students may be having trouble with it in the classroom, and you may have students that are failing the test overall. And when they come out and they bring their score report to you, that's an area of weakness for them. But really, overall, the scores are much lower in hair, nails, and skin in those other three sections. Now, I was blowing up Alicia today saying, okay, I'm digging in, looking at all this, and why do we have so many more questions on licensing and regulation and infection control than our Barber friends? I'm not exactly sure why it's like that. That needs to change. Did somebody have something they wanted to say? Please speak up if you have something you want to talk about.
Hey, Brenda.
Yeah, sure.
The total number of questions the Class A Barber exam has is significantly less than the operator exam as well.
You know, and
So that could be a
I
big
personally
factor
wouldn't
in that.
like that. That's probably a big factor in their pass rate being lower,
Todd, I can't hear.
because I can tell you that when manicuring is the same way. And when I was testing students on that, it did make it a little more challenging for them to pass the test because they got fewer questions. you know, they couldn't
Correct.
miss as many and still hit 70%. But, you
Correct.
know, but I still don't understand, percentage wise, we're still having 48% of our test is in these two sections. And percentage wise, they're less than 40% are in these two sections. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
If we're teaching the same 700-hour block in both courses, in my mind, that should all be the same, but that's not really why we're here tonight. So I just wanted to show you this first because I thought the results were really, really encouraging, that really our pass rate over the last year on these two sections has gone up significantly. I just saw a hand raised. I believe that was it Inez?
Yvette Diaz, how are
Yvette.
you?
Okay, sorry. Hey, how are you? I'm good.
Uh,
How are you doing?
so
What?
good, thank you. I have a kind of like, I'm glad that I was able to get invited to this meeting because I missed
Sure.
the TVOC conference and another conference that
Yeah,
you guys had. So
sure.
um I'm calling, my question is, I will be teaching 700 hours I'm in a high school level, okay?
Uh-huh.
So I'll be teaching 700 hours this coming year. It's just being, I don't know, to me it's really crazy, but my question is, can I teach the 700 hours with only the cosmetology book, since now they're both combined? Or is barbering updating? Do you know if they're updating a book, or what do
Um,
you recommend there?
what test are they going to be taking?
Well, that's the thing. I will have both Barbers and Cosmos combined. Is that
Um,
possible?
yeah, no, that is possible. For the 700 hours, it's possible for them to be combined. And I don't know what license you have, but either
I have
license
both.
can teach them. Okay, well, then you're in good shape. Um, I would think that you should be fine. It's kind of different in chapter 83. Everything to do with TDLR regulation, shaving is included in that hair area there. So, um, I would think I would probably use the book that I felt like was the most comprehensive. And there may be somebody else that's teaching a dual program. It may be that you need to use both books to keep your barbers engaged, because, there's kind of a thing there about I'm going to get a cosmetology license, I'm going to get a barber license, but the
Right.
content's going to be the same when you're talking
I
about these areas.
and actually I was talking to a cosmetology instructor yesterday as well, and she was saying, we came to the agreement that, especially that question that you guys were talking about, that why is barbering less questions, less, why? But
Hmm.
if you go into the books, because I was looking at both books, cosmetology and the barbering, and cosmetology does go more in depth,
Yes, it does.
and that's why I'm kind of like, okay, so should I just stick to it? Because I don't want to make my barbers feel like, wait, I'm learning cosmetology and not
Well, I mean,
barbering.
and
So
I think, I don't know how much time you and your students actually spend deep in the book anyway. So, um, I would think you would be safe if your barbers had a barber book and your cosmetology students had a cosmetology book.
okay,
When you lecture, you can lecture at that higher level if you feel like cosmetology is a little more involved. But, I would probably let them work out of their own book just because of their feelings about that. Alicia, you got your hand up?
Yes, I was
Yeah,
just
got
going to
it.
make
yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I was just going to make a suggestion to her, is like, because the new barbering book is fixing to come out. I don't know exactly the date, but it's going to come out probably in the fall. So if you haven't already contacted your rep, you can go ahead and get on the list for them to send you that barbering book. And I know that a lot of people that I've talked to that are teaching both of them, they're taking the cos book and the barbering book, and they're just going through those units and kind of combining and seeing what is really pertaining to them and what they're doing in their classroom, like what they're teaching, and kind of combining those chapters together. I mean, that may be something, you want to do too. That way you're, covering, especially the
Thank you so
700 hours.
much. I
Yeah,
will definitely
I
do
think
that.
that's what I would
Appreciate
do.
it.
And I think, my main thing about it would be, like I said, the students tend to have, and you want them to be excited about this profession if they're not going to be
Right.
dual licensed. So I think they can be in the same space at the same time with a different book, you know, um, just maybe a different chapter number until the new books come out, but that's okay. That's okay.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. So, and I've got some specific strategies to share with you that are related to the regulation and law from TDLR. But I wanted to talk about, I figured what we would do when we do this every month or so would be just to talk about some specific teaching strategies that I found have worked well in the classroom for me. And then we will kind of link that up to what we have for you to use in this particular topic area. Now, I think we got all that feedback during the conference about TDLR law and regulations because I think it's the thing that's the least fun to teach. We don't like to teach it, and it's boring. Students don't like it. So, I think that's probably the reason why teachers feel like they're failing in that area, but they're really not. They're really doing okay. So anyway, this first strategy is one that I used a lot, and I actually talked about this on the phone today with one of you guys about spaced repetition. And so what it means is that the interview that you're going to give the students, you're going to review it in increasing intervals. So instead of cramming it all in at once, especially in these high school programs, guys, where we've got these students, used to be 2 years, then 3 years, and now we're looking at 4 years that we've got these students. So um, that means you're going to be teaching these things over and over and over again to students to allow them to comprehend it. So you want to revisit this material over time with gaps between reviewing the content, and the gaps will become like a little bit longer as the information becomes more embedded in their memory. So like this just gives you an example. You would learn your new material on first day, you would review it on day 2, review it again on day 4, and then you might double that time and go to day 8, day 16. We don't really think about it in days. When I'm planning my units, I would think about it in the term of chapters. I'm teaching the hair cutting chapter and I'm teaching the hair coloring chapter. And so when can you take this TDLR laws and regulation like chapter 1603 and chapter 83, how can you embed that in everything that you're teaching? That's what needs to be done. And I think that's what a lot of you are doing really well. And so this spacing effect, like there's a lot of research behind it. It just tells you that the information is remembered when studied over a longer period of time rather than all at once. I tended to save the stuff I didn't like to teach for last, and then I would just try to cram it down their throats and hope they caught it, and that's really not the right way to do that. So that's one strategy. And then the second one, we're just going to talk about two. The second one is retrieval practice. And so that's what we do a lot. We do a lot of retrieval practice with our students. We do practice tests, flashcards, answering questions without looking at notes, explaining concepts to others from your memory. So that's where they're strengthening their memory and they're retrieving that information when we're asking them questions. And it's not just rereading it or reviewing it, but on the spot, they could answer these questions for you. And this is all based on testing. And it works for some students, but for some students, they're not good testers. They're not good testers. And so that's when a strategy like this spaced repetition is going to be way more effective for those types of students. But since this is what we have the most tools on, we're going to kind of look at some ways that you might do this tonight. And some of you are going to know some of these things that that I'm going to show you, and there's others that may not have ever seen them. And so that's kind of what this is all about. So first, I'm going to share a link with you. Now, I don't want y'all going over there and trying to log into it yet. We'll do it in just a minute, but I've already got it pasted in here. So I'm going to send it on to you first, because this is where you're going to be able to find an example of some of the resources we've got in an online course for regulation and law. But first, we're going to try to play a Blooket. So how many of y'all have used Blooket in your classroom? I know a bunch of you have. And do me a thumbs up or, yeah, okay. All right, good. Okay, so I'm going to unshare this and I'm going to share over a different screen and we're going to play together. We're going to play this game. Hold on. Let me pull over my screen here. Oh, somebody's already in here. Y'all are fast. Okay, let me unshare this one. Got to get the right window here. Look it. There we go. Oh, wait. Back. Oh, goodness. See, I already messed it up. Now you're going to have to join again. Sorry. No. I like the Pirate's Voyage. Okay, there we go. All right, there. Now y'all can do it. So, sorry. You're going to have to rejoin Lindy and somebody else that was already in there because I messed it up. Nikki. There's a bunch of y'all, so I'm not going to wait for every single one of you to get in here, but I do need more than just Nikki, so get in here.
Did you put the link to get in
I
there?
can put the link, sure. I'll put it in chat for you.
Okay.
Are you not seeing it on your screen? No?
Oh, can we go straight from the screen to do it?
You can go to play.blooket.com.
Hang on just a minute. There's the QR code. I was trying
Yeah,
to
the
see
QR code works. Yeah.
Okay, let me go in the court.
Mhm.
Let's see here.
There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get it started. You can jump in at any time. We're only going to play for like 3 or 4 minutes, okay? All right, I'm going to give y'all 32 more seconds. Oh, look at that. Cindy just stole from Lindsay. All right. So y'all kind of get the idea there. We're not going to play a full 7-minute thing. So I just wanted to show you, if you've never used this before, it's super easy to pull things in from other things that you might have been using, like Quizlet. And so I'm notorious for going into Quizlet. I never make anything myself, in Quizlet. I just steal something that somebody else has done and then take a look at it. But you can, if you go into Quizlet and you find whatever set you're wanting to use, you come down here and you're going to click export on it, and it's going to pull up all this text. So you're just going to copy that text. And then when you go into Blooket, you'll create a set. So you can create your free teacher account. And with the number of students that you have in your classes, I use this, I teach online for colleges and stuff. And so I'll sometimes have large sets of students. So I've kind of got the, I don't know what subscription I have here, but I use it a lot. And you can click create. And so we'll just add a title here. You can add a picture in here if you want to. And then when you click Quizlet import, you'll go to create, and you literally will just, whoops, sorry, go back right there. Next step, it tells you how to do it. I've already done all this, but you're going to just paste it in here and tell it to add the questions. Then you can go through and kind of look at them and review them. I mean, sometimes they will give you some um, weird things in here that don't seem right, and I may want to make it more difficult than that. And so you can change the time limit on each question. Students really like this because you can change the theme. And as you can see, they also like that they're able to steal from each other. So um, it actually like kind of requires it. It's not that they're being mean or hateful, that just requires that. Okay, so let me go back over here now. It's like Kahoots. Yes, it is like Kahoots. And I had never heard of Blooket, but my daughter that teaches in high school, she was talking about it and saying how her kids love Blooket. And I was like, Blooket, what are you talking about? I never heard of it. And so she showed it to me, and I was like, oh yeah, this is really cool. Like I like this a lot. So that's one strategy that you could use about the retrieval practice. And so, if you would kind of start out the year maybe looking at spaced repetition with retrieval practice. So in your units, like your larger units, like infection control, you might divide that up into little smaller chunks for students, where you're going to give them that small chunk over the course of your week, or your A day, B day cycle. And then you would review that with them, and then you would add another chunk, review it, and then you might put in a retrieval practice, which would be more like a test or a practice test. I didn't like to give a ton of tests. I like to give tests that really count. And so, that was kind of the way that I operated with that. And then another one, this one I'm going to show you guys. I have to switch sharing my screens again. That's what's hard about trying to show all these little things. This is one of my favorites. I'm going to put share sound so y'all can hear it, because I don't have the sound turned on yet here. This is called Genially. Genially, Genially, and I will put this link in chat for you so y'all can follow along if you want to. This is not something that you would necessarily play with your group. This is something that you could assign to students as homework, or something that you might give them to all review, where they could kind of go against each other and all of that. Just a second here. But it is similar in that you just kind of build your own little games. So this is telling you to collect chicken eggs for each correct answer. So you're going to click your chicken, and here's our question. So which of the following color pairs create a tertiary color? So would it be blue and violet, yellow and blue, green and orange? Who wants to give me the answer? Awkward teacher pause. Okay, we're going to click the first one. Let's see. Ah, that was right. So we've got an egg. Now it's going to give us another question. Which of the following is one of the 5 fundamental questions stylists must ask and answer when formulating a color? So what is the current condition of the client's hair? What's the current density? What is the level? So let's just pick one. Oh, it's dark and I haven't even got my chores done yet. So it's just silly little games like this that the students, they enjoy playing these things, and it just gives them a different way to kind of review this content without it being so grade heavy. We don't want everything to be detrimental is not the right word, but you know what I'm talking about. You don't want everything to be so grade heavy on the students. And I'm going to put that link in here for you now, so y'all can kind of take a look at that a little later on and play it on your own. Okay, let me go back now. I have to reshare over here. Okay, so now I wanted to go in and show you what we've got over here that I'm going to also email all the attendees of this session out. I'm going to send you the PDF of one of the Chapter 83 lessons. So kind of what we've done, but I'm going to show you here. Share. So that's the link that I put in there for you. And so this is kind of in our distance learning portal. It looks a little different because we've been working with, we've been doing some things that are not barber and cosmetology. So you're going to see kind of our stuff has moved over looking a little more generic, but this stuff is free for you, or you can share it over with somebody and we'll just add to it each month. And that way you can use these things with your students and kind of get a look at some of the things that we have that are available for your programs. So what we did is we've taken the units out of the TDLR rulebook, and we've taken it and kind of morphed it into a textbook format that's a little easier to read. And again, remember how I was saying, we want to do these things in small chunks. So rather than doing all of Chapter 83 at one time, what I recommend is taking things that are related. For example, what I'm sharing with you today is nails. So we're going to give them something to read first. This is the repetition that we were just talking about. They're going to read our textbook on Chapter 83.106 through 108. I called it All Things Nails, but it covers manicure and pedicure services. You can see this is a lot easier to read than reading the TDLR rulebook, right? And then it's going to go through Chapter 83.108, whereas where you get into all of the Whirlpool spas and these, step-by-step procedures for does it whirl or does it just sit still water? How are you going to clean these different types of foot basins? So we've got non-whirlpool foot basin, or we've got a whirlpool foot basin. You have to keep records on them and clean them in different ways, and that part is always super confusing for students. Then it goes into the disposable liners, your documentation, and the cleaning of chairs. So there's nothing that's different in here than what you're getting in the rule book. It just is formatted differently where it makes it easier to read. It's easier on the eyes. And so after you read it, then there's a video that is going to basically give you the exact same information in a video format. And I don't know if you can hear that. Alicia, can you hear the video playing through Teams? Or is it just playing with no? Okay. All right. There's probably some type of thing I have to click in here to make it work. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know how to change it. So anyway, he's talking and telling you all the things that you've just read, but it's just a different format for students to get it in. That's the repetition. And then there's a self-assessment that's going to immediately ask them to retrieve what they've just heard and what they've just read and Self-assessment means that this is for their benefit. There's no grade on this, and it just gives them the opportunity to see if they have absorbed any of that information, or maybe they need to go back and read it and watch it again. At the beginning of all of the videos, the narrator tells them that they should always be taking notes on these things. And, in the classroom with my students, I want them to always pull out their notes. There's going to be very few tests that they're not going to use their notes on in my classroom, because my theory is at least they're reading it again. I would rather them read it again for possibly the first time after they wrote it and get the question right than to just make a guess and get the question wrong. So anything that you can use, any trick that you can use to get your students to read, use it. Then you have your unit test, your exam. I always called those my exams. And on the exams, then I was really judging how much they've been studying, how much they've retained, and how much knowledge, how have I been successful in teaching this content to my students. And at that point, I usually give all of those tests on the computer because I want to prepare them for taking a computer test. And everybody gets a different test when they sit down at the computer, so it scrambles the answers. It makes it a lot more difficult for them to Google, because it's going to be timed, and those are the tests that I would take the grades on, basically. So, okay, that's what I have for you guys. I'm going to stop sharing now and open it up for some conversation and collaboration, because there's a lot of really awesome teachers in here, and if I don't have an answer, because I probably don't, somebody will. So I would love to hear some questions or comments, or some information about what you're using that's working really well for you and your students that maybe somebody else hasn't heard of. GimKit. Let's see. Let me see if I can. How can I unmute all you guys? I want to unmute everybody all at one time. The kids like it. Also, Kahoot. Where are you, Selena? We had more people come in after I unmuted everyone. Let's see here. Audio settings. Nope. Who's that? Kim? I hear Kim.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I did want to make a comment about, the kids getting confused about what's TDLR and what's just in the regular chapter.
Yeah.
They don't realize that the questions can be double-ended or double meaning they might think it's a hair question, but it's really a TDLR question, or it could be a nail question, or, it could be about health and safety, but it also can be within the chapter as well. So I think sometimes they get confused about that too, and that could be where the scores are confusing on the website, for the test scoring. So
Yeah.
I think that comes into play as well.
For sure. And, there's a lot of different places that a lot of the questions could fit in. And so I think that's important to, to keep that in mind, that it's not always going to fit in a pretty little box. So I'm trying to unmute anybody that I haven't unmuted. Let's see, Nancy, I just got you. Lindsay, I'm getting you. I did found a better place to do it, even though I still can't do them all at once. Kim Moyers, I got you. Okay. If there's anybody else here. And also I wanted to say, I know Kim made me think about it when I saw Kim Moyers in here. She had said that she had used some emerald shears for some students to help with their written test, and that she thought it was really good, really comprehensive, really affordable, and that it gave some really good reports back about areas that you might, identify with your students that they needed to work on and study more. So that's always good because we have people asking about different things all the time, and I never know what to tell them. And then Kim Hill said that she had been using something, I think it's called Cosmetology Guru, which we've been trying to figure out who the guru is. We don't quite know who the guru is, but anyway, she said her students had good luck with that also.
Renda, I
Yeah.
know one thing that I do, and it's probably, I mean, it's a pretty cumbersome thing, but I use it and I have my students get about 100 hours. Uh, and I have like a Canvas course that I've just had all kinds of review banks and stuff that I've gotten over the years. But then I kind of put it by category. So they may be taking a nail portion from this one company, but then now they're taking another nail test from another company. So they're all doing nails in that unit on a lot of different tests, but then they're getting it asked to them a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
And then the thing is, I make them, be able to pass it with a certain score before they can go to the next one. And so if they have to redo it, and then what I do is I just assign a time to it. Like if it's a 100-question test they're doing, then I'm gonna give them 2 hours of credit or
Hmm.
hours because TDLR is going to give you that. And I mean, that's what I've done for years. I know it's hard, especially high school. It's hard to get a jump start into them to make them do. I kind of review straight textbook questions first, and then I go into the other things. Uh, but even doing that over all these years, I've never had anything lower than like 85% pass rate on the written. Even my high school, the first attempt this year was the first time I did testing in 4 years because I've been at different places. But on the first attempt, I had like 85% pass rate.
That's really good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that some of the, I really think that there's more struggle in that big hair block just because it's so
Mhm.
broad. And, I think that's something that we can talk about the next time
Yeah.
we get together because there's a lot of good resources for that. This is a little more challenging.
I
Alicia, did you have
know.
your hand up? Uh-huh. Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so what I was just gonna, suggest or whatever is like a lot of times whenever you're teaching the rules and the regulations, before you ever start your chapter, your unit, or whatever you want to call it. So, for example, say like you're going to be teaching hair cutting, you're going to start off with hair cutting. You can go to that rule book in 83103 and you can start it off right there and just talk about all those different health and safety the health and safety in that particular unit. And that also helps break it down too. So that way they're not just totally getting in all at once. So it's actually you're aligning it with each chapter that you're going into.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, and now I see that Shawanda's on here. So that's great. So if anybody's interested in Emerald Shears, I didn't even know you were on here, girl. So that's awesome that she's on here because I have no idea how much it costs or anything, but if there's anybody on here that wants any information about it, she can send that over to you.
I do. I want
Definitely.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Can you?
There you go.
So it's
There you go.
real easy. It's just emeraldshears.com. Um,
I'll type it in here.
we try to keep the cost fairly reasonable. It's basically schools get a discounted price, but for individual students, it's basically $24.99 for a 30-day study plan. And they can be on it as much as they want to or as little as they want to for that 30 days. Now, we have different study plans, 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, and, the price is just adjusted according to their study plan. So if you have like dyslexic students or students who need a little extra help, they can, get a longer study plan so that they're not, just rushed in 30 days or anything like that. So
Let's see. Somebody asked about, let's see, are you only using the new red book? Selena, I would recommend, I don't have a breakdown of what's different in the new book versus the black book, but they have moved that's where they're pulling questions from. So the content right?
As far as Emerald Shears, our content comes from everywhere,
Yeah.
from internet sources, from books, from the TDLR rule books to barber books to manicuring books. I mean, we pull it from everywhere. The thing is in order for us to avoid copyright infringement laws, we have to be able to find the same question in at least 3 resources. So we have to be able to verify that that question is found in more than 3 resources.
Mm-hmm.
No, we do not have a book of our own. It is just an online study program. That's all it is. It's not, we don't want to be mistaken as a school. We are not a school. We just, we're a tutor. So you have to get your education from your actual schools, from your actual instructors. We're just there to help those that need the little extra push.
Good. So one more thing before we'll jump back into everybody asking questions and collaborating here in just a second, but I wanted to kind of touch on this that we sent out with the s'more this evening. So I believe most of you would have received that. And a couple of things that have come up since we had TDLR with us at the conference. And I shared out with a couple of the girls today a big, huge spreadsheet where we've just been going through line by line by line out of Chapter 83 and looking at the technical requirements in the curriculum, because I think they've definitely got some issues there. There was a lot of concern after the conference about what Shears is going to look like after they shut it down and open it back up. So I wanted to make sure, because that's at the bottom down here, that you guys saw it, that barber shears and cosmetology shears, they're open now and they're going to be available until August 14th for you to enter and report hours and completions to drop students enrolled. Now, this is their language. I don't know who writes this stuff. That's what it says. Barber shears and cosmetology shears are available until 8/14/2024 for schools to enter and report student hours and completions to drop students enrolled. That doesn't even make sense, but y'all know what they mean. New students enrolled cannot be reported in shears at this time. So what they're saying, what that says to me is that you're not going to be able to permit students right now. So it's going to be completely shut down from August 14th to the 19th for maintenance to complete the transfer of student records in the barbering and cosmetology program. Once the transfer is complete, the new updated shears will be available for all schools. During this period, schools may continue to operate, register students, and track student hours, but schools will not be able to report student enrollments, report student hours, or drop students. So you can chill on that. You're not going to be able to permit anybody until they get this up and running. And I know at our conference, Ray said he was nervous. So I don't know exactly what that means, but don't be surprised if there's, if we've got some little kinks to work out once they get it open back up. And so barber shears will be available on 8/19/2024 only for the reporting of hours for currently enrolled students and dropping current students. Okay. So what that means is that students that are already in barber shears, you'll continue reporting hours over there. You can drop them over there, but any new student after the 19th of August, you will be enrolling them and reporting hours in the new shears. Did I say that all correctly, guys, that were there with us? Making sure I didn't screw any of that up.
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. And so one thing we came across that, and we know that TDLR has actually uttered these words and told this to an instructor, is that there's nothing in Chapter 83 any longer that says the student has to have a permit on any particular day or time after enrolling in your school. Okay, so it used to be you had to have them permitted by the 30th day. That's not there anymore. So, of course, you can't submit any hours if they don't have a permit. So, but for some schools, y'all are only submitting hours once a semester. So you could go a long time without a student permit. I think probably
That's not a good idea.
it's not a good idea. And I don't think it's, I don't think anybody without a permit obviously they shouldn't be working on a live human being,
No.
but I'm just saying, I think this is something that they've missed. I don't think they intended it to be this way, but now they've bought into it because they're having problems with shears. And so they're telling instructors, nothing says you have to have a permit before a student can earn hours.
What?
Yeah, no, this is straight from TDLR. And
There's nothing in the rule book.
and there's nothing in there. They're correct. There's nothing in there. So I think it was omitted probably accidentally, but now they've bought into it and they're rolling with it until they change it. So just know that your students can go ahead and start earning hours and get them permitted as quickly as you can. And then students, they can be dual enrolled. They can receive instruction from a licensed barber or a cosmetologist. It doesn't matter what program they're in, or what license the instructor, teacher, whatever we want to call them. I have a hard time saying instructor, but that does not matter. So schools, you must have a barber for the 300 hours listed under barber specialty. Schools must have a cosmetologist for the 300 hours listed under cosmetology specialty. However, there's a lot of schools that are contracting with a licensee from industry to provide that instruction. And it doesn't have to be all in one block. It could be throughout the year. So if you wanted to offer a dual program, your school could contract with a barber in town or a cosmetologist in town to to come in periodically throughout the student's enrollment and complete those 300 hours with them. Now, that being said, TDLR also let us know at the conference that when new shears opens, there's going to be a column for the 700 hours of core, and there's going to be a column for the 300 hours of specialty. And it's on schools and the teachers to determine where to submit those hours. So somebody said,
So
well, they would just submit the 700 hours and then submit 300 hours. And Lorraine said, well, that's not really accurate, is it? So anyway, who had a question?
Me, Kim.
Yes.
So say one day they do cosmetology, the next day the barber comes in and they do barber, then you can put, that's gonna be crazy.
It's ridiculous, to be honest with you. I mean, we all flipped a lid about that. So I don't know, if I'm feeling like that's kind of why we've been working on breaking all this down, because I just don't see that. I just don't see that working. I think it's going
to. Can they double up? You can't double count. You can't double dip.
For the 700 hours, yes.
No, for the other.
For the 300,
like you can't do your 300 and your 700 at the same time. Can you?
Well, no, because that's not the same hours. So the 700 hours is core, 300 hours is specialty. So no, you couldn't do it at the same time. Well, I don't know. It doesn't say that.
Yeah, because you can do models at the same time.
Yeah.
I think what they're trying to do now, I could be wrong because I still haven't wrapped my mind around this completely.
Mine's hurting.
It is crazy. Is that like whenever let's say you do 45 minutes of theory, okay? Let's say you're teaching hair cutting. So you're doing 45 minutes of theory. So that would, now in my mind, this is what I'm thinking. That could be your core. But then when you go onto the floor and you're actually doing the practical hair cutting, that's part of your specialty. And you would have to put in there how many minutes or hours are for that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That will not work.
It's going to be a lot of work.
One of the craziest things I've ever heard of. Yeah.
Hey, Brenda.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alicia.
So when you go in to permit a student with shears to begin with, you have to choose what program they're going to be involved in, either cosmetology or barber.
Yes.
You have to designate that from the get-go. And so you can teach the 700 for both barber and cosmetology up to that 700 and then split them out.
That's correct.
So,
well, you used to. I mean, you used to have two Shawanda, but that's because they had it in two different logins, right? But it's not going to be in two logins anymore. It's all going to be in one big shears. And
Right, but
so,
you're still
yeah,
going to have that designation, though.
well,
According to the law book,
you do for some students, but they've also allowed for students to be dual enrolled. And so I'm not exactly sure how that's supposed to
see,
work.
according to the law book, you have to complete one program and then do the dual license, the extra 300 hours.
Hey, can I say something
Sure.
real quick?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Ray and them did say you could be doing like core and specialty along the way. You're not double dipping on it. He said you can do it how you like. It's not like you have to do the 700, then do the 300, but it makes more sense to make it that way because at the end, you're doing more advanced things anyway. So you should set up your modules where they finish 700 exactly, or like one of my modules, the last module, like my module 6, I have 8, but the 6th one, I say half of it is core and the other half is specialty. They're not going to be going and nitpicking every little thing you do. It's just get the first 700 done and be done with that module would be the cleanest way to do it. And then now I have 300 hours and whatever module that is, if it's 1, 2, 3, whatever you're doing with it, and then just do that.
Right.
I think the only thing, Kim, is though, is that Lorraine said that if you do that like that, that's going to like draw a red flag on your school. She said because you should be submitting core and specialty, breaking them down at the exact same time.
Oh,
That's
I
She did
think
that's
say
she
that.
used that as an example, but that's not a mandatory.
No, it's
I
not
mean,
mandatory.
yeah, it's not
no.
mandatory.
I mean, you're doing all core. I'm not teaching them a super advanced haircut in
Right.
core, so I'm doing that at the end. Just like you know, it's however you set your curriculum up. They can't if they approve your curriculum and your first 700 hours is all in these first 6 modules and you're completed that, there's no way they can fight that.
I just don't think they thought this out at all.
No.
Yeah, I think they were just using it as examples and they were making it more confusing for everybody there.
I mean,
I
and I
agree.
guess my thing was is that we haven't been doing that for the last 2 years. So why would they throw
Well,
this in there now, you know?
and it's also because they took kind of the restrictions away as to you have to have so many hours of this or so many hours of that. Now it's just 700 hours in the core curriculum and 300 hours in your specialties. So, they took all of that restrictive 150 hours in cold waving and, all of that away. So now everybody's just kind of floundering around. Okay, well, how much of this do I need to teach and how much of that do I need to teach? And so how do I get to that 700 hours? What is included in that? What's not? And
Well, I
so
mean,
I think
it's just because they're telling the instructor to determine it. I mean, that's what I was telling her. If you're not measuring it, um, like when do we cross the line for hair cutting? Like, I don't. What do you consider to be advanced in hair cutting? I mean, what I
right.
consider to be advanced may not be advanced to you, you know, and so it's just, I don't know. It's a very gray area. So what I saw somebody had their hand up. Let me do one more thing and then I'm going to turn it back over to you guys real quick.
Mhm.
Where is it? Where is it? Okay. So this was another thing that I noticed that really stuck out to me because we've had a lot of schools that are running a lot of teachers and they are having large numbers of students permitted on one campus, you know, talking 400 students in one high school program. And that's a challenge when you're trying to submit hours. So it no longer has to be an instructor because, you know, we don't have instructors. Doesn't have to be anyone with a license. It can be a school owner or a designee that can submit hours in shares. The only person that can't do it is someone that is holding a student permit. So if you are bogged down and covered up with, you know, having to submit hours on 350 students, that would definitely be a way that you could get some assistance on your campus. And I wanted to make sure administrators knew that and that instructors knew that because for some of you guys, this is a huge, huge chore. Um, Trying to get everything done paperwork wise. And then finally, I always say this time of year to everyone at every school, when you're doing these permits, permit them to the school address so that you get that law and rule book shipped to your school. That way you can make sure the students have it on your campus to use, because otherwise you may never see it and they may never see it. So that's all I got for you there. So I'm going to
Hey,
stop sharing
also
now and open it back up.
when you're doing the permits, if you'll put your school email address in there, then whenever they get their score, instead of going to their email address, it'll go straight to you. That way you have it.
Yep.
And then you can
Yep.
print it out and then give it to them.
Yep.
But
Let's
then
see who we
they'll have
got.
to go in and change it so they can get all the emails, right?
Do what
Yeah.
now?
They would have to go in and change it, so then they would be starting to get the emails.
Right. After they, after they take their written and after they take their practical, then you could go in and change their address. I mean, their
Oh.
email address.
Okay.
If you don't get it changed quick enough, then you're going to end up getting their license
No.
at the school. So I don't know
That-
how long it takes to take effect on that.
Well, they still
Usually
have to
what
go
we-
online after they've passed and pay for their license, right? So
That's
you put
when
the
we
address in
change
then.
it.
Mhm.
That's when we change it, is when they go online to submit to buy their license after they've already taken their exams and passed. That's when they go in there. When they pay, they change it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I have mine go in and pay after they do the written because it's sitting there and then they get it a lot quicker. If you wait till after they take the practical, it takes longer to get your license.
And that's true too.
So I have mine go ahead and pay for all that and it's ready to go before they take. If you do it at least 3 or 4 weeks before they take the practical, you're going to get it a lot faster. And sometimes if you do it soon enough, they will get a paper that says temporary license. But if it's not done at least probably a month in advance, they're not going to get that paper. It says temporary license when they get their sheet.
Excuse me, I have a question really quick.
Sure.
Does anybody know how many kids or how many students may go in if we were to take like a group? Like what's the biggest group that can fit for a written or practical exam at a PSI?
It depends on the
Anybody-
location you're going to.
Oh, okay. So maybe
That's-
does
I
it,
think the last count at Houston was 6.
In Dallas,
Houston
it's 12.
Now it's
Oh.
12.
Dallas is 12.
Oh, Dallas. Okay.
wow. So Houston
Midland
has
is
6.
Some written locations have up to about 15, but most of the time they're like, 8 or 10. Depends on which location you go for the written.
All right, thank you. And then one more question. Does cosmetology does not have the virtual, right? This is only for barbering?
Cosmetology has virtual. Yeah. They can do
For the test?
virtual
Oh.
written and virtual practical. Mhm.
Oh wow. I don't know if I get that option. Okay. Thank you.
Who else had their hand up here? Let's see. Trying to see who these are. Yvette,
Yes.
did you had your hand up?
Oh yeah, I asked the question. Thank you.
You asked. Okay. Okay, who's this one? Kenya.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I work at a private school
Mhm.
and I want to go back to the permit for the students. So we have this student that she doesn't have her permit yet. So I heard that you were saying that they can start collecting hours and get their permit as soon as we can because we're still back and forth with TDLR in that matter.
Yes, that's correct. You can go ahead and she can
So
go ahead and
how-
start earning hours. Mhm.
Okay, because we told her that she could start coming to school,
Mhm.
but probably her hours wouldn't count. But do you know how far behind we can start collecting her hours? Because she started in May.
Hmm.
I think
No.
as long as you have proof that you've sent off for
Yeah.
your permit, then she can start getting her hours as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, well that was my
Yeah.
question. Thank you.
Also,
Yeah.
Also, if you're on clock hours versus credit hours, that might make a difference as well, because with credits, you're just keeping track of their module completion. And so that counts as their time as well. So, but you said you're a private school, right? So you're
We are
probably still on clock hour.
we are
Yeah.
clock hours, and we are working our way towards credit. So
Mhm.
if somebody wants to get in touch with us, I'm gonna leave our email address in the chat, and I
Okay,
would really appreciate if somebody contact us.
you
Okay.
bet.
So yeah, as long as you've got proof of like her clocking in, clocking out, that she's been there, she's completing her assignments, things like that, then she should be fine as far as gaining hours without having her permit yet.
And the same with the clock too.
Yeah.
Okay, Angela, you had your hand up.
Yeah, well, mine was just earlier whenever we were talking about what
Okay.
TDLR had said about posting the hours. I really think it's only because TDLR does not understand how an actual school works whenever you're in there.
No.
If you think about it, like he was saying, okay, well, you're the only difference between the cosmetology and the barbering is the eyelashes and the shaving. So when you're teaching something that has to do with eyelashes, then you're going to post that in to their specialty for cosmetology. When you're doing something that's for shaving, then you're going to post that in the specialty for shaving. And I'm going, so yeah, so every time they're taking a client, because they're there for, 1,000 hours, every time they're taking a client that's shaving, I need to go mark that down as something they did for specialty. Like they're not understanding yet. And they're like, we're trying to make this very simple for you. But yet they don't understand because they're not there that you're not making it simple for us. You're trying to give us something that's impossible to do.
Amen.
Yeah, and I think also it's something about not understanding that, some of these schools are, some schools may have 10 students. There's other schools that have 400 students. And so it's, and if you're on time clock, I mean, how are you submitting that on time clock? I don't know. That's very interesting to me. I hadn't even thought about the time clock piece. So,
Right.
Lakeisha Perry, you got your hand up, Mrs. Perry.
Ask you a question. This is going back to the uh, no permit, and you still collecting the hours. I do understand with the module system because
Hmm.
you're doing it based on the modules. However, with the time clock, because I've always been told, and I wasn't told by an inspector, you can't report hours without a permit. You can't collect the hours and then report them if they're not permitted. So are we saying that is
That's
Well,
no
something
yeah,
that we can do?
longer,
yeah, it's
that's,
no longer part of the law or a part of the rule, and you obviously would not be able to report hours if they don't have a permit because there wouldn't be anything in Shears to report to. But as far as them beginning to clock hours, you can, they can start to clock hours. And
mhm.
I'm guessing if you hit that 30-day point at the end of the month and then you have to submit hours, they might have to stop clocking until the permit comes in. But on credit hour, a lot of the schools they're only submitting once a semester. So it frees them up a little bit, And like you said, they're only doing this
Wonder how much
because
of that.
they have to shut Shears down. That's why they're doing
Mhm.
it. So,
Okay,
But
But
I
so we'll
wonder
be
how
able
Brenda,
much
to.
of that
oh,
comes
yeah.
to. Oh, go ahead.
Brenda, he did say though, I mean, if they didn't get it up till the end of September or whenever, I mean, you can still wait, or you may be putting 2 months in at once. You'll just have to go put in the first month and the second month. He's saying that you're not going to be penalized or any of
Right,
that stuff
right,
if you're
right,
clock hour. So
right.
whenever they get it up, then you can just go at that point, but wait till the end of that next month.
Yeah. And they understand, they do know that,
Okay.
like Keisha, that they, it's when Shears, when it comes back up and when it's working properly, it would go back to the regular requirements on clock, of doing it within so many days after the end of the month. But what we're saying is that the law and the rules no longer require a student to have a permit within 30 days or whatever it used to say. I can't even remember now, but it's
Okay.
just not there any longer.
Okay. Thank you.
So let's see who else had their hand up here. Who's this? Suzanne? Suzanne, did you have a question? Let's see, Suzanne, where did you go? Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. People, Suzanne, I
I
thought
think she's blocked.
I'm trying to unmute. I thought I unmuted everybody. Hold on. Suzanne, 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 where are you? Suzanne, I can't even find you in here. Let me see. I'm going to go to Sharnetta and let me see if I can figure that piece out. I think she may have.
Did she leave?
She may have left. Yeah. Sharnetta, you're here. Suzanne's here. Okay. Hold on, Suzanne. Sharnetta, do you have a question? All right. I see you now, Suzanne. I'm unmuting you. Allow mic. So now you'll have to unmute yourself, Suzanne. Go ahead. Suzanne? No? Okay. Suzanne, do you know how to unmute it? Because you're not blocked now. Okay. Alicia, do you still have your hand up or is this from before?
Oh, that must have been from before.
All right. Is there anybody else that has a question or anything to offer, anything else that we haven't talked about that they're using that works for them? And Sharnetta, let's see. You allow Mike. Sharnetta?
Okay, I got
There
it.
you go. There you go. Okay, Suzanne and then Sharnetta. So we got two more
I was trying
questions.
to
All right.
unmute on my
No
on my
problem.
main thing. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so I wanted to circle back to the 300 hours on how to get that specialty. So what we've done in our district is, so the schools that have barbering and cosmetology, we're keeping, so students who start in 9th grade and they want to be barbers, we put them in barbering. Cosmetology students, same. We put them, but we teach them, some of them in the same classes just due to scheduling. We have decided to wait until the last year, so their senior year, to start the shaving or so they will go to the barber teacher for the last year to specialize in shaving for barbering, and then they will go to a cosmetology teacher for their last year of enrollment to get that specialty for eyelash extensions. We've decided that because it's just kind of a streamlined and we don't have to worry about trying to dissect the hours and, do all the math every month.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And I don't think there's going to be any problem with that. Sharnetta? Okay.
I also wanted to mention that when we had our inspection last year in the fall with TDLR, they had mentioned to me that if you mail in a permit with the payment, as long as you make copies of the permit application and the payment, you have proof that they are enrolled and they can start clocking hours at the day that you send it off.
Yes, and I'm guessing that that's just the way they're going to roll from here on out, is that you have to do it, but there's not going to be anything holding up students from beginning to earn their hours, which is good. That's good. We like that. So
okay, Linda, I guess I'm finally off of mute. I just realized I was
there you go,
on mute all that
Sharnetta. Now
time.
we got you. Now we got you. Okay, go ahead.
I was just piggybacking off of Kimberly because I've gotten permits like late September, beginning of October, and I've always been able to go back and enter those hours from the start of August. It's never been a problem.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a problem. I mean, I think TDLR's always going to, they should always err on the side of the student. So if there's been a problem with getting the permit back because you've mailed them in, but now what we're saying is that there's really not anything in the rule or the law that prevents you from allowing a student to clock hours without a permit. Okay. So it used to be that you only had so many days, right? Now
Right,
there's
right.
nothing there. So, it's just knowing that
Okay.
it's different, in the regulations. So, okay, and so I wanted to let you know that we went back and forth on this at the conference several times about the date and the location. We couldn't decide between going out to the OC and using their arena in Forney, or if we were going to go back out to Collin College. And Collin College kind of has a thing about people selling stuff there, and we wanted students to get the full kind of mini hair show sort of experience to be able to shop. And so we ended up going back to the OC and back to our original date of November the 7th. So that's host us up just a little bit, getting registration open. We're building it now, and we should have it open probably by the first part of next week. So it'll be November 7th from 8:30 to 5. We're going to run 4 or 5 or 6, I think, little contests. And by little contest, I mean probably an hour long without a lot of electricity. So think of things like, I know one in particular is going to be a team fantasy competition where a certain percentage of the hair can be fake, and a live model with 2 students, and they'll have an hour, to kind of finish their look. So the model would have all their costuming on underneath their cape, and they would have an hour to complete that look as a team of 3, and then they'll walk them on the stage. So kind of some fun things. Definitely not a replacement for what you're doing with Skills USA, but it'll be something light and fun. And, they'll come dressed for success, resumes in hand, and be able to shop and learn and compete. So we're looking forward to that. And then finally, that link that I put over in the chat is a link for our some of the things that we shared with you today, so you can create a free account and get in there. And we have a lot of other courses and content that's available on here for you if you're needing anything like that for students on their distance learning, or just things to supplement. It's a little different. What we have now is not going to be comprehensive curriculum for you to teach your entire program with. This is strictly designed for supplemental short pieces, 5 to 10 hour blocks, no teacher grading. When it's finished, they get a certificate. And so you could use it with your clock or credit hour programs. And with credit hour, we would help you kind of build it into your modules. So that's about all I have tonight. If y'all don't have any other questions, I'm glad y'all joined, and I'll be sending out a few resources for you and a link for a survey so you can give us some feedback on what you might like to talk about and do next month.
Do you have a date for next month when you're gonna do it again?
No. What date do you want?
Oh no, I'm just asking.
Shoot, no, I don't think that far ahead, girl. I was still building stuff 20 minutes before we got on here. So anyway, no, but I kind of like Thursday evening. It doesn't interfere with my church stuff, and it's not Monday when you're just trying to get the week going. So we'll probably look at maybe like the first Thursday of the month, maybe. That's what I was thinking. So I will get it up pretty quick and send it out. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, y'all know where to reach me. Y'all have a good evening, and I will send out this recording and some other goodies. Y'all have a good night.